A 23-year-old American can earn more money than his father did at the same age. He can carry a supercomputer in his pocket, order food in seconds, access the entire world's knowledge for free, invest in global markets with just a few taps. And yet, for millions of Gen Z Americans, owning a home feels impossible. Starting a family feels risky. Retirement feels imaginary, and financial security feels further away than ever. How is that possible? How can a generation with more technology, more education, and more opportunity than any generation before it feel so financially trapped? Because this story isn't really about money. It's about a game whose rules quietly changed, and most people never noticed. Take Ethan. 26 years old, college graduate, works full-time in Dallas, makes roughly $78,000 a year. 20 years ago, that income would have sounded like success. Today, Ethan checks his bank account before ordering takeout. Not because he's irresponsible, not because he's lazy, not because he's buying luxury watches or driving a Lamborghini. He's doing what millions of Americans do every month, trying to survive a financial system that no longer works the way his parents think it does. His rent is $2,100, his student loans take another chunk, car insurance keeps climbing, groceries cost more than they did last year, health insurance costs more than he expected, and somehow, despite earning more money than ever before, he feels like he's running in place. But Ethan's problem isn't really Ethan's problem. It's America's problem, because something strange happened over the last 40 years. The American dream used to be built on income. Now it's built on assets. And that single change may explain why Gen Z feels like they're losing a race they never agreed to enter. Most people think the American economy works like a ladder. You work harder, earn more, move up. Simple. But today's economy looks less like a ladder and more like an escalator moving downward. You can climb, you can sweat, you can work overtime, but if the escalator moves faster than you climb, you never get ahead. And that's exactly what's happened to housing, to investments, to wealth itself. Here's what most Americans never stop to think about. A house isn't just a place to live. A house is a wealth machine. When baby boomers bought homes decades ago, many weren't trying to become investors, yet they accidentally became wealthy because their assets exploded in value. The same story repeated with stocks, retirement accounts, real estate, business ownership. While workers were focused on paychecks, the wealthy were focused on ownership. And over time, ownership beat labor every single time. That's the part nobody explains. The biggest divide in America is no longer rich versus poor. It's owners versus non-owners. And Gen Z entered the game later than everyone else. Imagine showing up to a Monopoly game 3 hours after it started. Every property is already owned, the prices are higher, the rents are larger, and the players who arrived first keep collecting income from assets they purchased decades ago. That doesn't mean the game is rigged, but it does mean you're playing under completely different conditions. And here's where things get even darker. Because economics is only half the story. The other half is psychological. Gen Z is the first generation in history that compares itself to the entire world every single day. Previous generations compared themselves to neighbors. Gen Z compares itself to millionaires, influencers, tech founders, crypto winners, professional athletes. Social media created a financial hall of mirrors. Every scroll creates a new benchmark, a bigger house, a nicer vacation, a better car, a younger millionaire. And suddenly, normal success feels like failure. Behavioral economists have studied this phenomenon for years. Humans don't measure wealth absolutely, they measure it relatively. In other words, feeling rich has less to do with what you have and more to do with who you're looking at. Which means millions of young Americans are fighting two battles at once, a real economic battle and a psychological one. But here's the twist nobody talks about. Gen Z may not be witnessing the death of the American dream. They may be witnessing its transformation. Because the traditional dream was built for an industrial economy. One career, one company, one pension, one house, one retirement. That world is disappearing. The new economy rewards something completely different: adaptability, digital skills, ownership, investing, creating, building leverage. The people thriving today often don't follow the path their parents followed. And that's exactly why so many young Americans feel lost. They're using an old map to navigate a new country. The destination hasn't changed. People still want freedom, security, stability, a meaningful life. What changed is the route. And maybe that's the real story. Maybe Gen Z isn't failing the American dream. Maybe they're the first generation forced to reinvent it. Back in Dallas, Ethan eventually realized something important. He stopped measuring success against his parents' timeline. He stopped comparing himself to people online, and he started focusing on one thing: ownership. Little by little, an investment account, new skills, additional income streams, assets instead of appearances. Because wealth isn't built in a single moment. It's built through ownership accumulated over time. And that's the lesson millions of Americans are beginning to learn. The American dream isn't disappearing, it's evolving. The real danger isn't that Gen Z can't afford it. The real danger is believing the old version still exists. Because once you understand that the rules changed, you can finally start playing the game that's actually being played.